your pattern might require some form of interfacing. And what interfacing is a stabilizer, something that we attach to a piece of fabric to give it more stability and a little bit more weight. Often it's used in collars, it's used in cuffs, front plackets, things like that where you need it to be a little more stiff and a little more stable. There are two kinds of interfacing, and in my other video about fusible interfacing, some of them can be fused on with the iron so that they adhere to the fabric with a glue, and other interfacings don't have any glue on them, like this one here. This is just, it's what we call a sew-in interfacing, and it's just a thin piece of non-woven fabric that we're going to sew on to another piece of fabric. If you don't have interfacing, another option is just to sew another layer of the same fabric to your original pattern piece so that it's 2 layers thick, and that makes it a little bit more stable as well. So in order to do this, all we do is we put the 2 pieces of either the fabric or the fabric and the interfacing. In this case, I'm going to put the interfacing on the top or on the back side of the fabric, because we don't want it to show on the outside, but it's on the top here, and then the right side of the fabric is facing down. I'm pinning the pieces together, and then I'm going to stitch them. And I like hand stitching, hand basting my pieces together. It doesn't have to be a permanent stitch. We just call it a basting stitch because it's just holding the 2 pieces together until they get sewn to something else. So I am cutting a piece of thread and threading a needle, a hand sewing needle, and knotting the end. If I want it 2 layers, I find with kids it's easier to have a double layer with a knot at the end, because then it doesn't come as unthreaded as often, but you can just do single layer too of thread with a knot at the end. And then we're just going to take long basting stitches around the outside edge. And I do a few stitches at a time and pull. And the reason why I do it by hand instead of by machine is because we have a lot more control, and when it goes into the machine, it tends to move around and twist, and then the fabric doesn't lay as nicely. Now when we come to the corner here, I don't want to just turn the corner and take that pin out because it could start to gather the fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come backward over here at an angle, and then I'm going to go forward like this. And that kind of allows it to lock in place. So we have this little corner thing over here. I'm hand basting about 1/4 inch away. We don't want to baste too much farther than that. And see how I'm smoothing it out as I go too. We want it to lay nice and flat, like it's the same piece of fabric, same shape exactly as it was before we added this interfacing piece. And we just continue around the piece until it is completely sewn all the way around. It doesn't actually take that long, and I'm just doing a running stitch, and my stitches are only about 1/4 inch long. You don't want them too much bigger than that. 1/4 inch is fine. And again, you can use this fabric called SewIn Interfacing, which comes in usually black and white. This one's a gray. Or you can just use another piece of fabric of the same kind of fabric, or a slightly lighter weight fabric of the same color. I'll finish this up, but that is SewIn Interfacing.